this is a time when humanity in general has an opportunity to make a quantum leap for the best or for the worst. We do not have any control over the choices being made other than to provide information, knowledge, wisdom that may be helpful in people, opening not just their eyes, but their hearts and their third eye, their total consciousness, to the awareness that there literally can be peace on earth. There literally can be loving kindness models that work for the highest good of all. We also are aware that in your humanness, there are many factors that often constrict those possibilities or eliminate those possibilities, are caught in the traps of the concepts of good and evil, the concept of money is power, greed, a warring spirit as a way of handling everything, physical wars that cause great damage to the earth and violence to human beings. Because humanity is trapped in those lower level values, lower levels of consciousness, it's only the mighty few that are often able to escape that lower level consciousness and move into a higher level of consciousness and be united with a universal consciousness. That mighty few, called on in every generation, this is not unique, must rise to a significant level in order to create a tipping point where change or transformation happens in the now that is strong enough that it can breathe into the future. It can presence itself, not just in the now, but in the future. Once that happens, amazing changes can happen quite rapidly for the good. So at this point in this year, your cycle year of 2022, there is that possibility. Now, there is a negative energy that is powerful, conniving, and at work to prevent the transition into a loving, caring model of governance and survival, because there is no gain. There is no opportunity for 1% of the population to control the majority of the resources. It's not a greed-based model. It's a shared model. So in higher consciousness, folks not only emerging in their own individual personalities or personhood or the individuals themselves, these individuals now are attracting to them what we call the crystal clusters, what you may call community of light. So these communities now are starting to connect, network, if you will. We like that word because we always see that our job is to keep a safety net around the earth. And it takes all of us working together. So if you take network in that context, first of all, the individuals had to rise in consciousness to be able to connect with other members of the crystal cluster. Now these crystal clusters are gaining enough strength now to network, to connect with those places on the planet and in consciousness where we connect. So now they're connecting across the board energetically, or around the earth energetically, above the earth and even in the earth. And so as these crystal clusters begin to unite, creating this network, they are affecting a consciousness rising, if you will. A consciousness rising that is contagious. Because once you reach a certain number or a certain amount of people who are networking, now in order for them to be a part of the network, that means they themselves have to have evolved. They have to have attracted their crystal clusters or their community. And then those communities develop a strong enough energy collectively that then they can tap into our net and do the work. So with that happening, we say, don't underestimate that level of power. We don't like to use the word power because in the context of this dimension, power is seen as something that is held by a few people. Power is very misconstrued. When we talk about power, we talk about an energy that has the power to transform all things in an instant and simultaneously. So power, maybe the better word is capacity. Okay. Capacity, awareness, consciousness. And the key that distinguishes this type of power from a power based on greed is that our network thrives. The other network destroys. And so we're wanting you to see the rise of the individual, from the individual, the crystal cluster or community, from the community to a network, meaning that all of these communities are now connected. They have created a net. They have joined our net, the points at which our net intersect. The more that tap into our network, our net that is cast around our beloved Mother Earth, the more power they receive, the more capacity, the greater the consciousness, because they are now connected directly to the source. And we admit that it takes time. It takes an ever-evolving presence, which means some people are here for one lifetime, some for multiple, but no matter what, they're constantly growing towards this place. All human consciousness thrives to be united in this net, because this net represents the pure energy of absolute source. to transform a death consciousness or destructive consciousness into a thriving consciousness is not as difficult as it may appear. The reason is, as the consciousness of humanity rises, and we say the mighty few, it doesn't take everyone, the mighty few, once that consciousness reaches a tipping point, meaning it is now strong enough to intervene and interact at a earthly level, the earth itself and all the elementals, all the plants, all the cells, everything that is nature can now communicate through this network of pure consciousness. Source is brought into conscious awareness. And so that is why we say it only takes the mighty few to flip the negative into the positive. So having said that and laid that foundation, what we see is the communities around the world of human beings becoming so infiltrated with source energy from the mighty few. In other words, these crystal clusters now are seeping into families, communities, government, all levels, even into those who have power but still have a heart. The crystal clusters, the energy that when those crystal clusters connect with the net, remember we said they're tapping into source energy. That source energy then is in them, and everywhere they go, they are affecting human beings. And as we said, there are those that are in the 1% or 10%, however you want, the power base of this planet, who are actually controlling things in their death industries, destructive energies, in order to sustain more wealth than anybody else, meaning more power, meaning what they think is more control. There are those within that who know that that is not the truth, who understand that there's a call in them that's bigger than that, but they yield to the power structure that controls them. Well, this consciousness, as more and more crystal clusters or communities tap into the net, tapping into the collective consciousness, then those that are in these destructive model, there are those in there that are just waiting for an opportunity to transform themselves. So as this energy gets stronger and stronger, and the source energy begins to fall upon the earth very much like a fog. If you were to think of fog, that's how this consciousness, the stronger it gets, the stronger this fog gets, and begins to seep into the consciousness of even those who you may think have blocked that energy. So in 2020, we're beginning to see this emerging expression, this emerging energy of being tapped into the net, tapped into whole consciousness, the source, affecting so many people, so much of the earth, that even the earth itself, the soil, the plants, everything, the microbes, the cells, the colonies of insects and animals at the bottom of the ocean, everywhere, are feeling this source energy that is pure, that is full, and is rising up. It's coming alive in ways that the earth has been dying before. As this connection is made, then the elements, the earth, all the things that individuals feel there, that is something that's here to serve them. And in fact, yes, it is. But it's also a part of a living being that you call Mother Earth. As this consciousness, this source energy is poured in to this dimension, then everything is rising together. As the consciousness rises, as this net gets stronger and stronger, it becomes harder and harder for those who think they control the world, who have this pseudo awareness or the pseudo model that gives them all the power. This energy starts to break that down. It's not a war necessarily, it's not a battle, it's just that the consciousness just begins, that lower level consciousness can't survive as a higher level consciousness continues to grow and spread out around this planet. That's where you are. Will be a year where you may see there's a possibility of a lot of destruction, and at the same time you will see thriving communities beginning to emerge and connect with one another. Families, communities, industries that are not necessarily based on a profit model, but based on a sustainable model. And there won't be a need for battling over money and opportunity and all of that, because the very nature of a thriving community is that everyone has an opportunity to have and create a life and lifestyle that they want. But at the core of what they want is, what is the best that I can do to have for myself and my family that supports this planet, that supports our community, that supports the greater good. This is not a community that is a lazy and still community that just sits on the top of the mountain meditating all day. So we don't want to give that impression. This is a community that is, we say, thriving for a reason, because it is creating ways of doing crops and raising food and getting towards the highest nutritional value for everything going into the body, for what is good for Mother Earth, for the animals. It's looking at ways of using technology in the most profound way to make this world a better place, to make it accessible, to create a collective experience of what this existence is. So it's a very busy time, and not necessarily a busy in terms of a 9 to 5, just busy in the sense of following the streams of consciousness that rise up in each person, and yet still can come together to work as a coherent whole system. So the myth that this work at this level, outside of a death paradigm, is impossible, this myth is destroyed, because not only is it possible, it is thrivable. It is in itself a whole system model, a whole way of being that even the earth herself responds to, meaning that everything is working together. Now, of course, that does not mean that these are separate things, that everybody's doing their own thing. What it means is that everything is happening in flow. In other words, if you are an artist, then you're creating your art as a representation of everything around you. And so through your art, you're creating an opportunity for new passages and travels through time and space, through consciousness. And so those images that end up being created end up being maps for going forward, maps for adventure, maps for inquiry. So the artist is very important. And that art can be expressed in painting, visual arts, music, everything is attuned to source. So everything has a source-related effect on everyone and everything. The music, the paintings, the designs, everything is in harmony with the universal patterns of creation. And are expressed in the way homes are built, in the way transportation happens, in the way farms are designed. So in the way that everything is designed and reflected back. So that if you are observing, whether it's observing your own inner scape or the landscape around you, you are tapping into the rhythm, the sound, the motion, the consciousness of pure source. Every day is an expressive day. Every day is a day of experiencing yourself as your higher self. Does it mean that everything works smoothly and there's no negative anything? There is negativity, but see, negativity in this dimension is looked at as something bad. And in fact, there are bad acts that come out of negativity. In a thriving community, what is negative is often the teacher. So the relationship to something negative showing up isn't to destroy it, it is to go deeper with it, to learn the lesson, to use that as a guidepost to go forward. Is that clear? Yes. So 2022 will be a year of awareness as individuals begin to see themselves in wholeness, but also all of a sudden are finding other people who not only are expressing the same things, but are seeking each other to create and to do things on a higher level, not just for the money, but for the opportunity of going higher and higher. And finding that when they're in that flow, all that is necessary to support them to create a level of sustainability comes forward. It's inevitable. So don't underestimate the power of this year. Don't get caught up in the other network of mass distraction and destruction. Don't get caught up in that network and think that that is reality. There is a mighty power building. Does it mean that everything will be easy and there won't be major controversies and all of that? No. It means that there's a higher consciousness that is emerging that may look like chaos, because when things change and shift for the highest good, old models have to break up and break down. And the people who control those models will seek to find greater and greater destructive capacity to keep from losing their power, and exert that into communities to try to lower the consciousness. But it can't happen. The mighty few is doing a great job. So while the thrivable aspect of where humanity is emerging towards will become more and more evident, the chaos is going to come from old structures that are trying to hold on as wealth systems and monetary systems and power structures change. There will be resistance, and you're going to see this for probably a decade or two before things begin to level off. But that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, because everything now going forward is going to get better and better and better, affecting more and more people in a good way. The challenge for the individuals, the crystal clusters, and the networks is that when things seem to be falling apart, to understand they're falling apart to fall together in a whole way. And so not buying into what things look like is going to be critical. So much so that it's important for the mighty few to be spokespersons for what is emerging. Now open and available more and more, it is important for you to hold the consciousness of what you know, what you hear, to recognize that everything that you need and more is being poured into you in consciousness, in form, in expression, and in creativity. That means that everything that is necessary is at your fingertips. Whether it's money, opportunity, creativity, expression, the right people at the right time, the right openings in the right time, anything is available to you, and everything is available to you to support you in all that you do. In other words, it's going to be a time when things are just flowing in the highest possible flow. Your job is to receive and to feed into the network all that we share, all that we teach, all that you intuitively know from the guides, all that you know from the angels who we've sent to work with you on every level, to be an example of that expression. How you carry yourself, how you communicate, what you put out there, whether it's books, music, models of communication, models of thrivable models, whatever it is that you do, that you know you're being guided to do, to not even think about whether the resources or whatever you need, the contacts, whatever, are there, but just to know that they are. Just to know that everything is. And when you connect at that level, you become so second nature with that functioning at that level. You become unstoppable. You begin to see deeper and understand things greater and express that through your stories, through your music, through every avenue of expression, through photography, whatever it is. We will be here to guide you as always. Know what's yours, what's not yours. If what yours is only that which takes you to a higher and higher level. a deepening of your own consciousness and awareness. What's not yours is anything that seeks to destroy that.